Okay, so what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to find the end of our yarn from the ball, and we're going to measure out approximately 40 centimetres. The way I always remember it without having to use a ruler is to imagine a school ruler kind of length and then just add a little bit extra on. Okay, so you want that sort of 40 centimetre length, and then when you get to that point that you've measured to, you're going to create a slip knot. And a slip knot is basically folding the yarn over itself like that, so you create a loop, and then you're going through that loop and you're picking up the yarn on the side that's crossed over. So can you see that piece that's coming over here that's crossed over? You're going to go through and just pick up that yarn, and you're going to pull it through the loop and pull it tight. Now what you're aiming for is a loop that is big enough for your thumb and forefinger to sort of comfortably wiggle around in. Okay, so everything you're going to be doing is going to be done by these two fingers, this thumb and forefinger. The foundation stitch that we're going to use at the beginning is called a chain stitch. So if you're familiar with crochet, you'll know about it. If not, don't worry. We're going to do 12 chain stitches. Now to do that, we're going to put our little tail, if you like, over to one side, put our thumb and forefinger through the first loop like that, with the tail behind us going that way, and then we're going to pick up the yarn leading to the ball with these two fingers. We're going to pick that yarn up and we're going to pull it through, just a loop through the first loop. So now we've got the first loop, and then we've got another loop coming out of that loop. Okay, and then we're going to put our fingers through that new loop that we've just created, and we're going to pick up the yarn and pull a loop through that loop. So it's starting to look a little bit like a plait. Okay, and what we're aiming to do is to keep all of these loops the same size. That's the name of the game with the scatter cushion. So you're going to keep an eye on the size of these loops and making sure that they're about the same size. So if you measure how much space there is between your fingers, perhaps that could be a good measurement. You're going to put your fingers through again and pick up another. So remember, we are doing 12 of these. Okay, and we'll just keep going, fingers through, pick up another loop, fingers through, pull through another loop. Okay, fingers through, pull through another loop, and you're just going to keep on going. You have to keep unraveling the ball of wool as you go. Give yourself a bit of movement. There we go. And then if you by any chance forget where you got to, there's an easy way to count. So if you imagine each sort of V of the plait counts as 1. So you're going to ignore the knot at the beginning, and you're going to go to the first V. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and my loop is 8. So I need to do 4 more. So 9, 10, fingers through, grab the yarn, pull it through, 11, and 12. So the last loop that's hanging out the end is your 12th. I'll just double check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now then, so I'll just unravel a little bit more. What we're going to do is turn it on its edge, okay? So turn your flat sort of plait onto its edge, and then you're going to turn it in towards itself, so the two ends are kind of heading to meet each other in the middle. Okay, it's a bit like a halo or a crown or something, or a bracelet. You're basically joining it together like that. And what you're going to do is to take your loop, the final loop, and you're going to find the first hole, which is kind of in the knot on the other side there. You see where my finger is? You're going to squash that loop, okay? Squash it like that, and you're going to feed it through the hole on the other side. There we go. So you're going to feed it through so that it comes out the other side like that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it inside out almost, so that it's flat again, and lay it down like that. And what you'll see is that this circle here is going to become, I'll show you on the other side here, this circle here. Okay, what we're going to do is use the tail that we measured at the beginning to pull this tight like a drawstring, okay? But we're not actually going to do that until a little bit later. So looking at what you've got your 12th loop that you fed through the opposite side there. You've got your tail left over. Now what I suggest you do with the tail is just pop it underneath and hide it in the hole in the middle so that it's out of the way. Okay. And then you've got your yarn going to the ball. Okay, we'll call it the working yarn. Okay. Now then, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this around so that I've got my loop at the top away from me. Okay, it's sitting there, and the working yarn is over to my right. Now what we're going to be doing is basically working the working yarn through the outside loops. So if I hold that up to show you, so we've made it into a flat plait again, okay, and we're looking at these outside loops. Okay, we're going to go through, we're looking to go into those. So if I reach through the next one along, so if you have a look here, there's my 12th loop that I created, and then if I look along, the next available open loop is this one here. So we're going to aim to go into there with our fingers and pull through a loop of the working yarn. Okay, so we've got the original loop that we fed through to join the circle, and now we've moved on to the next one and we've pulled through a loop of the working yarn. Now we're going to move on to the next one in line there. We're going to put our fingers through, pick up the working yarn and pull another loop through, trying to keep the loops all the same size, okay? And we're literally going to continue. I'm going to do it flat now on the table, but we're going to literally continue to the next loop, fingers through, pull a loop through of the working yarn, and you can keep turning it as you go. Find the next exterior loop, the one right on the outside edge, okay? Fingers through, pull the next loop of working yarn through, and we're going to continue, keep turning, fingers through, pull through another loop of working yarn, and it's going to start looking a little bit like petals of a flower. Okay, so fingers through, grab the working yarn and pull that loop through. It might look a little bit complex at the beginning, just until you sort of establish this first row of loops, okay? So we'll go around again. We found the next one. And then as you start to approach the final loop like that, what we can do is a quick count. I'm just going to pull, I think that's another loop there, so I'm going to pull that one through, unravel a bit of yarn. So there we go. Let's have a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's one more hiding and it's just there. So I'm going to pull a loop through there as well. There we go. So that's our 12. Now the very first loop that you use to join the circle might feel a little bit like it's pointing out in a dodgy direction. It might feel like it's a little bit out of place and not as naturally laying flat as the others, and that will be that one there. It's kind of hiding underneath, but rest assured it will work nicely as we continue round in a moment. So I'll just pull the tail out just to remind you that there's still a hole in the middle, and now we've worked round in a circle and we've got this lovely circle of petals. I'll just pop the tail back in the middle just so it's out of our way. And what we're going to be doing is, if you unroll yourself a decent amount of yarn, so you don't have to do it again for a while, we're going to go round the circle again. Okay, so the very last loop that I made was that one there. So we're still working clockwise. We're going to go into the next loop along, which was our original one that we used to join the circle. And we're going to pull a loop through that, and then we're going to go to the next one. So literally we're just working around and around in a circle, now going into the petals, if you like, that we created the first time round. We're revisiting each one of those and pulling a loop through. Okay, so really your only job is to focus on making the loops of similar size all the way around. Okay, so we'll just keep going. Obviously you can pause this video at any time, rewind and have a look again. That's the beauty of a video, isn't it? So you don't have to do it as quickly as I'm doing it now. I just want to give you a sense of what it's going to start looking like. It's a very repetitive process. There we go. So we've been round all the way around one more time. Okay, circle still empty in the middle. And then what we're going to do is to continue round probably another 3 times before we end up turning it over to start to grow the cushion round in a circle. So what we're looking at is the outside of the cushion. If you turn it over now, you'll see that's the inside or the underside of the work. So that's what it's, you won't see this will all be inside the cushion. Okay, so what we could do now is actually to do this drawstring of our circle in the middle. So you'll have your tail, pull it out of the centre, and you'll see that it is coming out of a stitch. If I show you mine there, it's just coming out of that little stitch there. Okay, so what we'll do is, if we look at the interior of this circle, we've got these, because it's great that it's such giant yarn, because you can really see clearly defined sort of lines where these stitches are. So each of these little pieces of yarn is a stitch. Okay, each of these is a stitch. And what we're going to do is feed this tail under each stitch. So I'm just going to work around clockwise. So I'm going to pick up the first one, okay, and I'm going to just feed that yarn through. And then I'm going to find the second one there, just pick it up and feed the yarn through. And as you do it, you might just want to just kind of start to do the drawstring effect just slightly gather together the stitches. So we're moving to the next one. I'll show you. This is the next one, then we'll go under that one, then we'll go under that one, and so on, all the way around the circle, okay? And we're approaching it from the same angle. So I'm going from the inside of the circle to the outside of the circle, passing under the stitch, as opposed to starting from the outside and going in that way. So we'll just pull that one through again there and start to gather things up. And you're going to work all the way around the circle. Keep an eye on where you started. So I know that I started around here, just so that you don't go under the same stitch twice. Or you can just count the 12, as we know we've got 12. There we are. Almost round to the beginning. That one's a wee bit tighter there. And then we're going to have one more, I think, just at the back here. Right then, so I've been through each one. And you can already see just by gathering it and pulling it as I've been going round, it's already creating that flower petal shape in the middle. But I'm just going to push it down and pull on that yarn like that. And that's closed the top of the cushion. Okay. Now this remaining piece of yarn here, the tail, what we can do with that is we can, just to fasten it so it doesn't go anywhere, we can split the yarn in half, and just underneath where it is, you'll probably find, if you dig down, you'll find a stitch kind of further hidden underneath, and you're looking for a hidden stitch underneath around which to tie. So I've passed one of these underneath that stitch that's sort of hidden underneath, and we're going to tie a couple of knots. Okay, in fact, to be honest, one knot is usually tight enough. And then you're going to feed these bits, literally pass them through the hole that's right there and pull them all the way through, so they're hidden. So they are now going to be, can you see I've pulled them all the way through? They're on the inside of the cushion, and that's where they'll stay now. Okay, so we can continue now creating another row of loops or petals going around the outside. Okay. So just going into the same loops that you created before, your finger and thumb, and keeping them all the same size. There we are. Sometimes with this yarn, just so you know, because it's unspun yarn, you may get the yarn splitting and getting little fluffy bits attached to it like that. So what I suggest you do if that happens is just to smooth it out with your hands, just run your hand along it like that, and you can actually just pick off any fluffy bits that don't look so pretty. This is a decorative item because this yarn is in some ways strong and in some ways a little bit fragile, because it will bobble quite easily if it undergoes heavy use every day. But if you place it on a nice armchair that doesn't get sat on very often in a corner, or on a guest bed or on your bed, it will stay looking beautiful. So it's probably not recommended for use with pets and small children. Spoken from personal experience. Okay, a little bit long. So I'll just adjust. So we're continuing round, continuing round. And we're aiming basically to reach a stage where the entire piece of work that we're looking at is approximately about 1/2 metre in width. So I would anticipate that we probably need to go around one more round. And then we'll be ready to turn it over. Okay. Now, you don't necessarily have to have made sure that you've gone all the way around exactly the right number of times, as in having something perfectly symmetrical at the point of turning it over, because you are going to just continue going round and round, so you will actually make up and even up any imbalance of symmetry there. Let's have a look and see how big we've got now. I'm judging this by eye, okay? But let's count the stitches so that you can see, if you did want to count and get the same number as me at the point of turning over. You start in the centre and pick one of these. These will be one of your first stitches, and we're going to count out, okay? So if we count down this row to this loop, you can probably even count from the loop itself. So we've got 1 is the loop, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? So we're 6 loops out, and if you wanted to see if you're symmetrical on the other side, you would just count the same. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, so we have pretty much completed 1/2 of the cushion at this stage. What we're going to do, and we'll have it so that the last loop you've just done is facing you.